Another minute.
Yeah, we give another minute before we start.
Yeah.
Hello, Sabina.
Hey, Chayan, how are you?
Namaste, namaste.
Namaste to you. Namaste.
So good to see you both again, John and you.
Okay. And so good to see
Hi,
both
Chayan.
of you too. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. When I read through your message and when I got to understand the topic of it, I was like, this is it. I must attend.
Though I think so that in terms of I mean, there are some of you here must be wondering, that the topics that we're going to talk today, but
Yeah.
John is going to focus more on the surrender part of it,
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
on the how we can surrender and let go of attachment.
Yeah, yeah. I have also shared the link with all my properties HOD. So let's see if some of them can join.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So John, we are now live on Facebook.
Yep, I see that.
Yeah.
So should we start?
Oh yes, please.
Quite
Yeah.
fast. All right. So welcome everybody to our second Conscious Leadership podcast, Sabina and myself. And today we're going to be talking about letting go. It's something that comes up quite often in self-development, but it's something that's really, it's not easy to do, but I think it's not easy to actually, what does it mean? What does letting go mean? I remember a little while ago we talked about surrender, and that's something quite different for males and females. I wouldn't say masculine and feminine, but surrender is another word, but it's not. Surrender is in the sense of giving up, is a male might see it. When we're fighting, we give up. So it's a different type of letting go. It's a different type of surrender. So I hope this will entertain you for the day, and we'll touch a little bit on the levels of consciousness, because I think that's quite a good way to give it a visual explanation, a visual idea of what happens when you let go. I think it's for me it's the letting go, but it's also why. Why what are the repercussions of letting go, or what are the repercussions of not letting go? So hopefully we'll answer a few of these questions. We got time at the end. We'll put on do some Q&A as well. So Sabina, you're going to start off.
Yes,
over
thanks.
to you.
Yeah, thanks, John, for the opening. I would like to start this podcast with a story, and probably that I would say that some of you have heard actually this story, but no harm, to hear it again. And this is about two monks and a beautiful lady. This is a story about a senior monk and a junior monk. They were traveling together, and at one point of time that they came actually to a river with a strong current. So as they were preparing actually to cross over the river, they saw a very young and beautiful woman also actually attempt to cross the river. So this young woman actually asked them if they could help her to cross the other side. And these two monks actually, they glance at each other, because they have taken vows not to touch a woman. Then without a word, this elderly monk actually picked up the woman, carried her on his shoulder across the river, and placed her gently on the other side of the river, and continue on with his journey. Now, their younger monk couldn't believe what just had happened, okay? And they were walking, and he was speechless. An hour has passed without exchange of word between them. 2 hours has passed, 3 hours, and finally the younger monk couldn't contain himself any longer and blurted out, as monk, we are not supposed or permitted, to touch a woman. And how could you carry that woman on your shoulder? So the elderly monk actually looked at the younger monk and says that, I couldn't believe it. I set her down on the other side of the river while you are still carrying her, right? So that's what actually happened to us, because we have this baggage that we are still carrying on, the attachment that we couldn't actually let go. Another side story that when actually that we looking at this podcast, it reminded me actually of my second daughter. And when she was young, she has two things that she always carry with her. Her pillow, her small pillow, and a specific pacifier. And she was carrying this pacifier all around, everywhere. And with this pillow also, that she sleep with it, she eat with it. She played actually with this pillow and have this pacifier with her. And why is that? It's because of the attachment, because of we couldn't actually let go. But in this podcast, what we're going to talk about, especially related to business leader that not able actually that to let go. And we have this, attachment actually with us, especially attachment to a specific outcome. And most of you are, I assume, are business leaders, or if not that, each of us, we are self-leader, right? We have this attachment with us to, especially with to achieve a specific outcome. And why is that? Because result matters. Now, regardless at the organization level or at the personal level, you know that we have this form of attachment, especially if you are looking at someone who are at the by me state of consciousness, or the individual that is living in this by me state of consciousness. Now, if some of you that was thinking about, okay, what is this by me state of consciousness? You can refer back to our previous podcast last month that John and myself, we did it, and we talk about by me and through me state of consciousness, right? Okay, so what is the position or posture of a person living in by me state of consciousness? So the position it is, I create my experience. I'm fully responsible for my destiny, my career, my life, my performance, my business result, right? So the person believes that he or she is fully responsible for the outcome. Yeah. Now, to achieve that intended outcome, you need to be in full control, right? Or at least you try to control everything. For someone who is living in that by me state of consciousness, deadline is very useful. I can tell you, deadline is important to the person. And the reason why it is because you focus on validating yourself for the result that you want to achieve. And by me, someone who's living in a by me or state of consciousness, you want actually that you're in a position, in a posture that I am in control. Why? Because of you, there's an element of fear, which we're going to talk later, because the way that you look at the world, it is you're carving your success at the world to achieve more status, more significant, certainty, connection. And because of that, result matter to you. Okay. I just actually, that was earlier, I have another, I had actually a cohort, EMF cohort earlier. And I was asking actually that the person, how is she actually that with the, currently with the organization, she says that, oh, we are into this engagement activities. So for some of you, when you work in an organization, there's a survey going on, it's engagement survey. And they say that, oh, we are preparing actually for the engagement survey. And suddenly all the leaders are become so active right now, looking into the activities. Well, that is actually a by me style of leadership, right? Because they know that the engagement survey is coming and that is associated to good result. And suddenly everybody is taking action right now to be engaged, with the employees, organizing engagement activities, that because of the survey that is coming soon. that is so actually result oriented, right? Now, however, a person who is living in true state of consciousness have a different perspective or relationship to result. It's not that they don't have the deadlines, they do, but they are more flexible with deadlines. Okay, let me give you an example here. And I think so the easiest example, which is related to my experience in hospitality industry, it is when you go to a restaurant. Okay, so when you go to a restaurant and you see the waiter give you the menu, right? So you decide, you look at the menu, you decide, and the waiter actually take the order. Let me ask you, do you question or doubt or wonder if the chef know how to cook the meal that you have ordered? Do you ever question if the waiter is bringing salad instead of the mushroom soup that you have ordered? I can guarantee you there's no doubt. You just order and you trust that the mushroom soup will come to you. And you don't have this internal conversation going on with you, you know, because you have absolute trust, faith, and your heart and mind are in alignment that they will deliver the soup to you, right? Yeah. And you also have that trust, faith, that the kitchen staff know how to cook the soup to the perfection. And you don't ask the chef or the waiter what type of mushroom, how the soup was cooked, did the chef put the cream in the soup? You don't do that. You just trust, right? So leaders living in true state of consciousness have complete trust in the outcome of the goal, right? Because they know that the right outcome will show up at the right time, yeah. And they are willing actually to do the work as well. And you are also aware that events, circumstances, and opportunity will be presented to you. And for you actually to participate in order to bring actually the goal to fruition. Now, however, for leaders who is living in by me state of consciousness, there's no chef, there's no kitchen crew. You have to go to the kitchen, you figure out the ingredients, how to cook, how many minutes to cook into perfection. And because of that, result really matter. Yeah. Now, the other thing it is, with this attachment to the result comes also emotional pattern. Now, one thing I can say, John, and also to the rest of you, that the most common pattern I see in leaders, and this is basically that based on my experience with leaders and I observe their behavior spoken to them, yeah, and I realized that they subconsciously set themselves sometimes up for failure and aware of the attachment that brings sabotage to them. And that emotional pattern is fear. Okay. So if you look at this map of consciousness, I'm going to share with you here the map of consciousness, just for a while, just to show you here. Okay, can you see this? This is map of consciousness, right? So in this map of consciousness, sorry, I'm looking at my second screen here. Okay, you can see that my eyes is actually towards the other side here, and you can see that fear, it is down, is actually that we are using force here. Okay, and we are using actually, John and myself will be using actually this map of consciousness to explain to you with regards to that why we are attached to the outcome and how that we can let go. So I'm going to stop share here and continue on with this. Yeah. Now, everyone has fear, right? But the way that I see that the leaders process fear differently, you know, I'm not sure whether you are aware that sometimes we as a leader, we projected that we are fearless and we tend to hide away from our weaknesses. We tend to hide away that we are vulnerable. And why is that? It's because of our face value, our pride. Pride is the other thing that it is below the level of consciousness, right? It is actually that is using the force, okay? And the other reason it is that coming back to fear, it is their fear of failure. And why is that? Because there is a consequences in failing. Failure brings shame and disappointment. Yeah, I think so. I should share again actually the screen so all of you actually can see here. Yeah, can see, right? Okay, good. Yeah. Well, I'm actually just explaining to you again, like I say that why we tend to hide our vulnerability, our weaknesses here because of the pride. You see or not? Because of our pride here. A fear of failure, and we know that failing has consequences. So what is actually consequences? It spiral down to guilt and shame here. So this is another emotional attachment that we have. We bring along, okay, with us because of that guilt and shame that we have. Failures mean I'm not good enough. I feel humiliated and can spiral down to victimhood mentality. And what happened is we start blaming others. We start blaming ourselves. We start blaming, circumstances and events. Yeah. Okay. And it's a human nature. And I would say that it's a human needs that we want validation from our bosses, from our subordinates, that attachment that I belong to. Yeah, so just hold on. Is someone actually trying to admit here? Okay, admit ready. Yeah, and what is the human needs? I would say that the four human needs that we are attached to it is we want the uncertainty. We want actually certainty in our life. We want love and connection. We want actually significance. So those are the attachment that we have. And because of that attachment that we have, we are afraid of failure. Yeah. And when do you, so what do you do when you face, when you have actually fear of failure, right? When you actually have this fear of failure, you tend to put high importance on your pride and significance. Yeah. And what you do is you try to impose control to reduce the probability of making a mistake. Why? Because in by me, the position that you take it is I am in control. I'm responsible for the result. So I impose control to reduce the probability of making a mistake. Yeah. And I would say that people here are very certain, that we are quite certain that if we put actually some control, right, that will help us to reduce mistake. So we can get actually the intended outcome. So we are seeking here actually in terms of what is it? Certainty and security. Now, the need of this certainty is actually based on attachment to the known. You got it or not? So where I'm coming from right now. So because of our need that we have here, that we want actually this certainty and security and know actually the outcome, our attachment is actually based on the known. And what is the known? The known is your past. Am I right or not? Something that you already know is your past. It's your past experience. Right? And if you look into your past has no evolution or creativity. None at all. Okay? And there is no evolution, there is only stagnation in the past. Why I say that? Right? Because you are having the same idea, same thought, same feeling, similar action. You recycle same idea, same thought, same feeling, similar action to do things to achieve the outcome, right? So here you are, you're having actually this problem here, and you want actually to resolve the problems. What you do it is based on the known. You recycle same idea, same thoughts, same, similar action. But you're thinking by using the same idea, same thought, same feeling, similar action will produce a different result. No, it will not. And I have to tell you that to be in control and attachment to specific intended outcome is an illusion. Is illusion. If you feel that you need to be in control and attached, okay, it's an illusion. Why I say it's an illusion here? Because I think so that we have, okay, yeah. Because life is not a straight line from point A to B to C to C. Life is non-linear in nature. And leadership as well as outcome are also non-linear in nature. Let me ask you, have you ever come across, despite your best effort that you put in working on something, things turn out differently from the result that you wanted or what you have pictured in your head? Right? It happened, right? And why is that? Because of life is non-linear. Leadership as well and outcomes are also non-linear. Now you can plan, you can write your goals and the result that you want, that is linear and logic. But that doesn't mean it will turn out the way you plan. It's only work on paper. Okay? Now the beauty of this logic and linear, which I truly support, you know, that I work in organization before, and I find that there's a beauty and logic in linear as well. Reason it is because it allows you to reach for an answer from a given starting point. Okay. Example that you put in an objective, you know that where do you want to reach? That is linear. But you can't rely on that linear objective. Yeah. It's because it's an illusion. It's a false belief. And it limits you from finding a better solution, a better outcome here, right? So once you detach from that attachment, so what is the opposite of attachment is detachment, right? So once you detach from the outcome, you would invite creativity. I would like actually to give another example here. So for you actually do that, you know, easy resonate, okay? It's kind of like letting a dog or a puppy run wild on in the park, right? When you let actually your puppy or your dog actually run wild, okay, in the park, what happened? You find it's very interesting, especially if the new park, you find that what happened to the puppy? Anything of interest, the puppy will thoroughly investigate it. He will go, the puppy will smell and also will do the marking, right? Before jumping to the next, and possibly actually that next area, possibly not related subject here. Okay. So similarly here also, I will say that if you have a goal, example here, you know, if as many of you here are business leader that you want to achieve a revenue, $1 million in revenue, okay, that detachment will not actually interfere with your desire and your goal or your intention to achieve that revenue. You still have the intention of going in a specific or certain direction. Your compass is still pointing to the north to achieving actually the revenue, the $1 million in revenue. Your goal is still actually that to the north, to that direction, but between where you are at the now, where you are now, to the north point, there are infinite possibility. That infinite possibility actually allow you to brainstorm, allowing actually that your thoughts to flow in unrestricted, okay, And probably actually some creativity will come up. Yeah, something special in the process will come up. Yeah, for you actually to attain actually that goal. Yeah, so I'm going actually to pause here. Yeah, and so I hope that you understand why we attach to an intended outcome to a specific result. Yep. Yeah. And I have a very interesting, yeah, and I have a very interesting question I would like to ask John.
Uh-oh. Go on.
Yeah, so John, I mean that myself that I have actually that seen in social media and read articles and so forth. So a lot of in articles and social media says that you need actually to let go and surrender, you know, from attachment. To let go of your attachment and surrender. But there's a lot of us here are asking, how do you surrender? Right? So it's easy to say than done and what you say, right? So if you can share your perspective to us that how to let go and surrender.
I've only got 30 minutes. How to surrender, how to let go. Thank you, Sabina. That was fascinating. You've taken all my thunder because I'm normally the one that tells the stories and you start with stories. So that's thrown me off. That's thrown me off my track a little bit. But I do like that line there. I wrote it down. I wrote a lot down. Goals only work on paper. I think that really for me sort of sums up the whole problem of why we struggle to let go. And it also we're getting into that sort of or we've got into that process of setting goals and having that outcome and getting this attachment to it. So much so we're taught not to fail. You know, you go to school, you have to pass exams, you have to get 50% to go up, you have to get so much to get to university. In America, if you haven't gone into bankruptcy, that's part of life. Whereas in, you know, where I was born in New Zealand, Australasia, that was terrible. You never went into bankruptcy. So you were never allowed to fail. So you're always focusing on success at whatever, however you manage to get that. And of course, if you're struggling on you're struggling with the outcome, if you're focusing on the outcome, and that's that's the objective of what you're doing, then all sorts of other things come up for you. All sorts of other problems come up for you. It's because we get so attached to it. And I think society is changing. Some of the bigger companies and some of the smaller dynamic companies, Microsoft, Amazon, with your objectives, if you're not failing 30 to 40% of the time, you're not trying hard enough. So they're actually taking away that downside of failure, because it's one of those things where what are you focusing on? The outcome, the goal for the business, or not failing? And if we're not quite reaching the goals and we're looking at the failure, then we tend to start looking on the failure. We start to look on the lack, what we don't want to happen, those values we don't want to go near. So we lose track of the goal, the achievement, and start to refocus because we're so embedded into this not failing syndrome. And that really creates all sorts of problems. And the biggest one is, of course, that we don't want to get, because it's so powerful for us, this need to be right, this need to not fail, it becomes this sort of the dominant sense that we have in business or in life, that draws in, and we hold on to it. And the closer we get towards failure, the more we hold on to it. So this attachment grows stronger. I'm going to just share my screen. I'm going to put a PowerPoint on here. Yes, there we go. PowerPoint. All right, cool. Okay, so you can see my screen, my PowerPoint screen. I just want to touch a little bit, focus a little bit more on business and why this is so problematic in life, but particularly here in business. we employ people because of their education, because of their experience, because of their skills. You know, we interview them on what marks did you get, who have you worked for, and that's the basis of employment. It's all about things that we learn. The problem is that there's a little bit more to a person than just what they've got on the piece of paper, what they have in their briefcase. You know, their performance, a person's performance is based on more than that. It's based on what's going on in their head, how they're behaving, their cognitive abilities, and where their heart is, what they really want to do, what are they passionate about. And it's, I'm going to tell a story now, Sabina. Years ago, I was working in a business, and we're employing people. So it was residential, and we had a few outlets, and one of them was a kids center, so preschool children, and there was different activities. And I needed to employ a couple of women, or men, but it was women that turned up to just sort of look after what was happening. They weren't teaching; it was just sort of being there. And I'm one of these people that I want to empower people. So I would always say, so obviously with this interview as I was doing, I had the HR manager there because it was HR, but I also brought one of my subordinates along, one of the guys that worked for me as a department manager along, so that he could sort of see how it works, get an experience. And we interviewed this woman, middle-aged, had a couple of kids. For me, perfect for the job. So I asked the HR manager, what's your opinion? So we had the feedback at the end, and her feedback was all about the briefcase. Well, she's got this experience, she's got children, so it was all about the physical skills she's had. Now, the guy that I brought in, I trained him for a few years, so he knew that I wasn't looking for that answer. And his answers were all about the head and the heart. It was quite a fascinating, almost juxtaposition between the two of them. He was looking at her attitude and the way that she talked about her children, things that real skills that would help her relate to the children. So the problem is that we employ people, we interview them for what they've got in their briefcase, and we fire them for their attitudes if they don't fit into the team, if the way that they think doesn't quite strike a chord with the team, if their heart isn't quite in what we're delivering, if they haven't got into the business, people invariably leave or they get dismissed because of their attitude, because of who they are, not because of their qualifications. But we do this at the end. We should be doing it at the start. So this is the critical part of sort of setting yourself up. So where am I, so first of all, where am I in my consciousness level? Because that will dictate, that will create the behaviors for the people that I employ around me. And obviously the people I employ around me are the ones that I want to stay, the ones that I'm going to spend money on, the ones that I'm going to spend time on, the ones that are going to help the business to prosper. And what I wanted to just talk on here on the pipeline model is this understanding that we employ somebody for their trade, for their skills, but also their attitude. And how many times have you got somebody that's really skillful on the shop floor? I was talking to the butcher the other day. That's a real hands-on job. And at that level, when they're not on the shop floor, when they're a butcher, they're cutting the meat up. That's one thing. But as soon as they get promoted up, that's quite a change of skill, and it's quite a change of values. And this is the first problem we have with letting go. While a person that gets promoted up to line manager, so he's got a few people that he's managing, has he learned to manage himself? So that's why I said there about the first, you have to look after yourself. So where am I? And one of them is the skills, but the other one is my attitude, my consciousness level. How do I look to other people? And on the shop floor, that doesn't matter so much. But once I get promoted up to a line manager, my values change. So on the shop floor, my value might be about creating the best product, getting out on time, getting promoted up. So I have a group of people that are working for me. The focus changes to, I'm going to value more about the outcome, the production of the team. So there's subtle changes there that are happening with values. And changing your values, because most people don't even look at their values, changing your values can be quite problematic for people. And that's why a lot of people get promoted up and they don't succeed. They change jobs, or they leave, they get fired, or their department just doesn't run as well as it could because they're holding on to the skills and the values that they had in their previous position. They got promoted on paper, but they haven't taken on the different values of the position. And this is the problem we have with people. People don't assess what they have to change. I think the big thing for me about self-development and what we're talking about here is self-awareness. So what is it about me? When I get promoted up, how do I have to change? How do I have to how do I have to start treating people differently? On the shop floor, it's one thing, but when I'm a line manager, it's much more about relationships. Making sure that I understand all the guys that are working below me, what their attitudes are, how I'm going to get the best out of them. And this isn't just looking at their skills. Remember, we employ people for their skills, or we let them go for their attitude. As a line manager and further up as a department manager, it's recognizing those skills, but recognizing the attitude. And how can we work with the attitude? How can we get the best out of the person? Well, I worked with one company and they were bringing in quite a high level of consciousness into the company. So what they do, the two directors of the company, the two owners, brought this in, and they had these meetings with their immediate board. It's about 30 people in the company. So the board had about five people, managers, department managers for each of the departments within the business. And four of them got on board with it and really understood, okay, this is how I have to change. So you have to talk to your department managers first to get them to change so that they can take that down into their workforce, their work group. One of the guys, it just didn't sit with him. And it was quite a good outcome for the company, because early on they picked up this guy was just not comfortable in the ways he was going to have to change. Looking more at himself to change himself to get the company on this ideal. So he decided to leave, which the company weren't happy about, but they were more focused on developing and evolving the company. So you have to really understand what your values are and what the people beneath you, what their values are. Support those, interact with them, feedback, 360-degree feedback, all these sort of interactions, and evolving and developing those understandings for yourself and making it clear for the people that you work for. Yeah, a confused workforce isn't going to be as productive as a workforce that's all over the place. So I think I'm getting to letting go. I just building up parts of it first. There's parts of this self-awareness to understand ourselves. There's a self-awareness that we have to be aware of, but also how we impact on the group around us. So most of us are still asleep and we just don't think about this stuff. How do I interact with how do my relations work? How do I interact socially with people, with the people below me, but also the managers above me, the director? How do I interact? That was always my problem. I was really good with the people below me, getting them motivated, understanding what their needs were so that I could work on those. But the people above me, I sort of struggled a bit with. That was probably my sort of downfall. Self-management, relationship management, these are all emotional intelligence skills that we can learn once we're aware of where we sit. So level of consciousness, this is a little bit, it's the same levels of consciousness that Sabina was talking about a few minutes ago. I just broadened them out a little bit. So when we have a manager that's in by me, so they're working really hard, and as Sabina was saying, this is about attachment to the past. It's about the fear of failure. It's because we're brought up to not fail. So we use force. We push people. We don't have time to understand our employees. We expect them to reach figures, and that's why I love that line. Goals only work on paper. When you're at this by me level, you're demanding. It might be pride. and we're not at levels. We have a predominance for one level, and then as we evolve, we move up. We may move down. We may not move around at all. The world has sat below 200, below grief there for millennia. So managers will come at different levels. There'll be different ways that they push, but at this by me level, when they're using force, is it because there's a fear of failure? And as Sabina's saying there, an awful lot of managers are at that fear of failure because they won't achieve, and it's that outside validation. And that's why I love hearing that Microsoft expect people to fail. If you're not failing, you're not actually pushing the envelope. If you're not failing, you're sitting in your comfort zone, what you know. So this is what happened in the past. It works, so I'll keep doing that. And for millennia, that worked. Before we lived in villages as an agrarian and then living in tribes, and that went on for thousands of years. There wasn't much evolution. There wasn't there wasn't that much pressure on people. People, 2,000 years ago could still be living it by me. They were still working hard. There wasn't the demand on people for the failure. So there wasn't so much attachment to being seen, succeeding. And a lot of it is about that outside validation. And this is what happens at this by me level. People are forcing people on the outside. They're not looking in the inside. They're trying to get things done on the outside so that they can win the gold medal or they can get the promotion up the company. And it gets hard, and there is repercussions to that. You physiologically suffer, mentally suffer. Mental health issues start to come up. You might get addicted to things. You work hard all week, and so Friday night it's like, okay, I'm going to go out and drink too much, or I go to parties and there's drugs there, just so that you can get your physically with a pill or with alcohol into a different state of consciousness. Then that's not a great way to be, because you end up with diseases, eventually having these lifestyle diseases where you have a heart attack at 55. I mean, and they're getting earlier. People are having heart attacks at 40 because they're just so much in this by me mentality where I have to push. And really, it's about outside validation. It's about trying to live in certainty because we don't like uncertainty, trying to get the significance, the promotion, the gold medal, or that love that we try to find love, but it becomes conditional love. And so it's not quite as satisfying as we want it to be. So we spend our time in this pressure situation where we're not looking for answers, we're hiding from uncertainty. We don't want to fail. So physically it gets to us, but we don't want to let it go because we're not comfortable. Letting go, releasing that control is a huge hurdle to get over. So to actually move out of this lower levels of consciousness, this by me mentality, the fear, the desire, anger, a lot of pride comes up, especially for managers that sort of, I've got the next level. And as we know, goals, we don't live in a linear world. Goals are not set in stone. We might work really hard. I'm watching a program at the moment, and this woman, she's a lawyer and she's working really hard. She has no social life. She's working really hard, but that goal is not totally in her control because other people decide if she's going to get the promotion. Something happens, and the program is about other things happening to her that make it a struggle for her to achieve that. And that's pretty much life. If we set goals, we write them on paper, that's pretty much where they stay, because part of it we don't have control of. It causes these physical problems for us. So to get above this level, to let go, to get above courage, to get into neutrality, and then that's sort of the first step, and that's a big step, to let go, to surrender. It's to understand that it's a conscious thinking, it's a conscious process to work through. I'm killing myself in this by me level. I'm giving myself, I'm not relaxing. I'm ending up with divorce, separation, mental health issues. It's physically recognizing that, how can I change it? And then it is actually understanding that I don't have control of these guys. I don't have control of these goals. Sorry. I can still have KPIs. I can still have figures I need to get to at the end of the month, but it's better to have the team working together to achieve those figures than this force, this by me mentality. When I'm interacting with people, silos them. It gets them into, I have to do well. So they're individually, you have a team of 10, say, individually, they're fighting their own corner. People don't work as teams. So there's a consciousness understanding of the damage that being a by me is doing, and the positive part of moving up to this level of as through me, moving above 200, moving to a state of neutrality, being able to let go of the fact that I think I have control. It's an illusion. I think I have control of the goals. Much better. I've told the story before. I had a great job in this hotel. And the first thing I did when I went on the boat, it was on a boat, was to tell the 3 women on the front desk, my job is to teach you to take my job. And it took them a couple of days to understand that, because nobody ever told them that before. But then their whole attitude changed, because suddenly I was sort of putting an outcome in front of them, something that they could work towards. Now, that's quite a big step for me as a manager, to empower the people below me to take my job. For me, the way I took that was, well, I shouldn't be sitting here in my comfort zone, with all the certainty I can, I should be working to take my boss's job. So it's a change of attitude. It's a change of understanding I don't have control. Understanding that if I'm not failing at certain things, and failure is the negative word. Really, I did this, it didn't work. What did I learn from it? So change the languaging on what we're looking at, but change the actual understanding of what my life's about. And I get so much more stepping from certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, stepping into growth. So really, we're growth-centric human beings. We shouldn't be doing, we're beings. And that growth is empowering the people below me, actually seeing them blossom, seeing them take on the job. And that makes it more, I was going to say impactful. That makes it more likely that they will want to stay. I was working in Myanmar. The average turnaround there, and part of it's wages, but the average turnaround on jobs is something like 25%. When I was there a few years ago, we had no turnover in 2 years, because in empowering the people below me, made them want to do more, which made my job easier. So I wasn't pushing as much. I didn't have to be in the by me as much. I could actually sit a little bit more and empower them for their goals, for their outcomes that they wanted. So letting go and surrendering is that understanding that I don't have control of all of this. And that's sort of it's an away from value. It's an away from something I don't want, and changing that attitude into what do I want? So I want to empower the people beneath me. I want to look at how I can develop myself to take my boss's job. That change of attitude, that change of understanding, that change of drive that I have within me is the sort of thing that brings on this letting go. Because letting go, because of the attachment, if I'm holding on, it's focusing me in, it's narrowing me down. That's the big thing I noticed about letting go. If I'm holding on, if I'm attached to the outcome, my focus draws in, and that's never good for a manager. You need to have a wider picture.
John,
So
can we, I think so that,
yeah.
John, would we be able actually to stop sharing, or you still wants to?
No, that's what I want to say. It's really, it's letting go is moving to a higher level of consciousness. It's taking self-assessment of where you are, where you want to go. Sabina, do we have any questions?
Yeah.
We have a few questions in there.
Yes. Before that, what I can conclude based on what you have said, John. So you're saying that you know that the way that for us to surrender, to let go here, it is to have the self-awareness, right? Self-awareness and
Absolutely.
recognize that where we are at the moment, right? You know, in terms of our own self-awareness, as well as relationship with ourselves, as well as relationship with others, right? So when we have that understanding of that awareness, it's much easy for us actually to let go, right? That's first what I understand. Second, what I understand here, it is about trust, right? As a leader, what I'm hearing here, it is that trust your people by hiring the right talent, put it that way. And the right talent is not just necessary to be on the skill, but it's also looking at their personality as well as attitude here, because that it is this important as they grow with the organization, right? But it also that for the leaders actually that to be able to delegate, empower and delegate them, right? So having actually that trust, you know, the trust level from the leaders and managers, when you trusted your people, then it's easy for you to let go. And the role of the leader is actually to empower them, you know, to do their job, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's a big step. So from that, from below 200 on the consciousness level, you've got anger, desire, pride. It's a big step to go to courage, and it's you having trust first, because you can't expect your employees to have trust in you. It's you having trust, and then being a leader, leading people. That's the word. So it really comes from you first, but it's trusting yourself, and that's courage. And that can be quite a tall order for people to.
And the other thing, John, that I realized that, right? Why leaders cannot let go, it is because they have this fear of it's actually based on the egocentric, that they feel that their employees can do a better job than them, employees that are smarter than them, and take the credit away. So hence some leaders have the inferiority complex to say that, you know, my employees shouldn't be better than me, but I have another view. If I hire people, who are smarter than me. I remember that when I was in India, John, at that time, I don't have a master degree. And you know that everyone else under me all have master degrees. So I said that I decided actually to hire people that have the master degree. Why? Well, they are talented people, they're smarter than me, and I trust them, empower them actually to do the job, right? I remember that when I was working in Dubai, this Bayazat company, and I remember that because I actually applied this when I was actually in Dubai, and they have these 3 ways. I remember it very, very well until now. The 3 ways to manage people is either you tell them what to do and how to do. That's one way. Tell them what to do and how to do. Second, it is you tell them what to do, but you decide, but let them decide how to do it. So you can tell them what to do, but you let them decide how to do it. And the third one, if they are competent enough, you let them decide what to do and how to do it. Right? So I guess
it's a lot of courage.
Yes,
it's a lot of courage involved.
It's a lot of empowerment that you are giving this, provided you have the right talent actually that on board, and that actually giving that trust actually to the people, right? Yeah,
absolutely. It's interesting now because today, you know, Microsoft, the bigger company, and it's a lot more with the smaller dynamic companies. Okay, you got a degree, but what else have you done? Experience is so important, and I think this is where, you know, the switched on HR people now looking at the skills, the briefcase, the qualification, but also the experience. Where's your head out? Where's your heart at? Is this somebody that could actually get into taking on a job? And with trust, that comes from the leader. But if you have a project, so I have say 5 people in the team, who is the best person to lead this particular project? And it's not going to be the person at the top of the table. It could be somebody different. I think, and one of the other things that's fascinating is that people from diverse backgrounds and challenged backgrounds are actually coming onto boards and businesses now because they have completely, their thinking is completely different. And that should be taken on board, and it should be encouraged, because, you know, if you keep doing, what did you say? Our attachment is to the past. If you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to be out of business really fast today.
Yeah, especially for companies, right? If you keep on doing, so there's willingness,
what you've always done.
You know, in certain actually organization, they have set up an environment where it is employees are in flow, right? So when actually they set up actually an environment that induce, I would say that induce flow work environment, then what happened is that open up actually that trust level, as well as allow the employees, you know, including ourselves actually, that to step into uncertainty. So because I think so that John, you also mentioned here willingness actually to step into uncertainty, right? Now, how do we do that, right? How do we actually step to the willingness actually that to the unknown? It is by taking the courage, right? That's what you mentioned, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's that big jump from sort of below 200 on the consciousness level. The first couple of ones are the courage, neutrality, trust, willingness. There's, as I said, we don't sit at one level. We have certain aspects of ourselves. We'll sit at different levels in different moments, in different situations. But I think for me, it's stepping outside my certainty, because I quite like doing that. I remember I've told that story, so I won't tell that story again, but recognizing, and this is the self-awareness, recognizing in myself, oh, is that challenging? I haven't done that before. What could I learn from this? Not, oh, I don't know how to do that. I won't go near it. And then you're going to stagnate.
Exactly, that willingness, right? And then one thing that I you know, that I like what you say, that it is that you step out of your comfort zone. I think so that both you and me, John, you know, for those that here that follow us on the mentorship program, we always hear actually this quote: life is growth-centric experience, not comfort-centric experience. And comfort is the enemy of growth. Okay, comfort, by you being in that comfort level, is the enemy of growth. Growth to yourself, you know, that even growth to the organization as well. So you need actually that to let go of being actually in that comfort zone. And to let go of that, it is by having the courage to step into the unknown area, because the unknown area is the field of possibility, where creativity and freedom to create a bond. That's where you have new ideas, new you know, creation of new things. And then you are also less rigid, right? You're less rigid, less fixated on how you're flexible on how things should be done.
I think that's a really good, important, the creativity of it, because if you're hemmed into goal, I must achieve this goal, and you're forcing it, and the relationships start to break down, the first thing that disappears is your creativity. So you can't see outside the box. You're stuck in the little dark box there. And as soon as you step back and you allow that, you trust, and it's not a doing again, it's being. I'm going to trust myself to make mistakes, because then I can learn. And that will sort of osmotically go into the group, the group that you're working with. And really, today, you know, there's never going to be a slower time in life than there is today. The world's speeding up so much faster. And if you're not sort of being creative, then you're not going to be here in a few years. I love my Nokia phone. Was a fantastic phone. And I had a Nokia. I've still got a Nokia phone. They're great, and it still works.
That way, Nokia and BlackBerry.
Exactly. I've still got the phone, but the company's gone because they got so hemmed into focusing on that technology, and it moved on so fast. So, you know, and really, creativity is growth. And it's Felicia's saying there, letting go. It's it's not easy. It's
Yeah.
challenging because sitting in your comfort zone, it's called comfort for a reason. It's I'm not being challenged. You know, I can sit here, I can watch television. I always imagine sitting on a comfortable sofa. But you know, when I was younger, or my parents, they could do that because things change so slow. I've lived in Myanmar for 10 years, and I mean Twitter, TikTok, all this stuff. It's like, do I need it? It's so much of this stuff. It's sort of, if you miss a couple of years, then you miss that. Or Clubhouse is another good one. I sort of missed that as well because things are changing so fast that if you sit in your comfort zone and you don't sort of touch into these things. So what is Clubhouse? Just, it might work, it might not work. But you know, if you don't try these things, and they're all out there, then you're just not going to keep up. And really, as a manager in a company, the company's going to be moving on, or if you're not moving on, if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not helping the company move on, then you're basically going to be out of work. At the bottom line, you're not going to be moving forward with the company because the company won't be there. So it's recognizing, that it's not going to be easier, but which is easier, sort of sitting on the sofa and not having a job in 10 years, being out of touch.
And I think so one thing that could leaders do here, you know, I'm sure that all of you are leaders, and we you know, self-manage ourselves, our self leaders as well here. It is the art of getting into a flow state, right? And I think that is an amazing and awesome way actually that to get you to let go of an attachment here. So you get into a flow state. The question here it is, how do you get and stay into a flow state? Now, you can pick up, actually, there's a book actually, you know, where I talk about flow state, which is Mihaly. I even can't pronounce his surname. Actually, if John can help me, that would be wonderful.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I can put it up. I can put it up later actually on the book actually that talks about flow state, right? But then, I mean, he talks about the individual, you know, members or individual person actually to be in a flow state where you totally immersed in a task. But as a leader here, the question here it is, do I get into doing a specific task here, you know, to be in flow state? Now, I'm going to give you a different perspective here. And this is actually that how I see that a leader should get into a flow state, and you get out actually from that attachment state, right? Now, what you can do here, it is that to induce this flow state, which is, I believe so, that is very much aligned to a leadership role. It is that what you can do is spend time on work-related conversation. Thank you. Who actually put it up? Actually, John. Thank you.
Me.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. This is the one. Yeah. Mihaly, whatever I'm pronounced of his surname here. And this is a great book. I have this book. I read actually this book a couple of times, but then this is focused on an individual immersed in a task. But we're talking here from the leader perspective here, how you can get into high flow inducing state. I believe so it is by you actually that spend time on work-related conversation with your team members, with your peers and your customer. The question is, you should ask a better question here. It is, how can I help you to be totally engaged with your task at hand? So if you can actually that bring this conversation with your people here and say that, okay, how can I help you? So you are totally engaged with your task at hand. That will be good, because then your team members will open up to you to say that how you can help them. And second, it is discuss and resolve team members' barriers related to the project. This one thing that I realized that in leaders that we tend to give project. This is a project, this is an assignment, let's do it. But some leaders fail to remove the barriers. If you want actually them to be in that flow state, and how you can induce high flow state in yourself, it is you focus on removing the barriers for your employees. There are barriers that are related to that specific project. Right? And by doing that, you are encouraging actually that your employees here, you know, to step into the unknown. And like we mentioned earlier, that try actually to provide, you know, that this flow-inducing work environment, right? Which is important here. Microsoft have that. Facebook, you know, also have. It doesn't mean that you have to set up actually a big one. It can be just, I think, sort of having a room where that encourage them actually that to you know, that have ideas, to start new ideas, promote actually your employees, you know, that if they have a good ideas, you know, in the specific project, yeah, and allowing them to make mistake and learn quickly is very, very important, as what John had mentioned earlier, right? Yeah. And I also
think that's a big,
yeah,
that's a big part of it, isn't it? You can't just say get into flow.
Exactly.
You have to get an environment that they trust, that they can make mistakes.
Yeah.
They themselves, not just you, but they themselves start to get out of this pride, anger, fear, sort of buy me mindset into a higher mindset. So and those barriers break down. And I think creativity for me is one of the big barriers to flow. To be in flow, anything can happen, you know, and that's the only way it can happen. So you're not, oh, we can't do that. Or you're not putting barriers, because the barriers will stop the flow.
Exactly. And also that as a leader, like you know, coach, guide, and mentor your team. Right? That is the role of a leader, that if you, that is also that for you to induce a state of flow, which you're supposed to guide, coach, and mentor your team members.
How many coaches do you have, Sabina?
Over a period of time?
No, right now.
I have about 3 or 4.
Yeah, I have
you're talking about coaching clients? Yeah. Oh,
no. How many people coach you?
Oh, okay. I have 3 mentors actually right now with me that I can reach out. 3. Yeah.
So I think that's quite I agree that you coach and mentor your team, but it's just as important for you yourself as a leader to have a coach, mentor, because and that again is getting into that situation where you can get in flow, where you can start to have these different ideas, talking to a peer, talking to somebody that's mentoring you to evolve your concepts, your ideas. You can't get to this level by yourself. It's difficult doing it with your peers at work, and I think that's the power in actually having a coach. So yeah, I have 3 coaches and mentors as well.
Yeah. So before we open up a question here, I just actually wants to share another actually insight, to all of them here, which I believe so is very important. I'm leaving this last for the best, which is lowering our importance here, lowering our significance here, and to let go of our significance, right? Now, some of you may aware, some of you may not aware, there is an ancient sage called Patanjali. And Patanjali actually that wrote a book, or I would say that have the book on the Yoga Sutras. And in that book, that Patanjali discussed a technique called samyana. So samyana means some together, or binding and integration. Now this in samyana, it has actually that 3 parts of it, which is have dharana, which is steadiness of mind, concentration, dhyana, which is meditation, and samadhi, which is the settled union. The settled mind, the settled mind, it's a union of mind, body, and soul here. So what I'm actually that impressed with this samyana, it is that if you want actually that to let go of let go of things here, that you need actually to have that power of concentration and dhyana meditation, and also that the union of your mind, body, and soul here. And the technique of this samyana, it is that if you have a question, okay, for example, that you have a problem here, an example here, I'll say that, okay, that I have a huge tax payment I need to make, but I don't have money. So what do you do? So we ask a better question here. And the better question would be, what would be the possibility that I can stretch out, in the payment? Or should I ask my tax consultant to look into it? Can I defer the payment, etc., etc.? So using the samana, that is, you ask a better question and you let go. You're not thinking about it, but you are with it. So in the process of incubation, when you actually let go of that thought, there is where actually that new insight and perspective will emerge, right? So you just let go of the moment, but doesn't mean that you are not with it. You are with it, but you're just letting go of that. By letting go of that thoughts will be actually that being processed deep within your being. And you will see that new perspective, new insights will come up. And surprisingly, John, as you know, that if we actually go through elite mentorship program actually that teach us about these tools, the tools of concentration, the tools of meditation, as well as samadhi, which is the union of mind, body, emotions, and also at the soul level. So it's very, I think so that beautiful here it is that this one area that you can actually let go by looking into this samyana technique, and you can
put
also
that in the sorry, I was just going to say, could you put that in the chat, just the
yeah.
spelling of it, so we
I will put in the chat here. But surprisingly, when I look into this, I realized that Elite Mentorship Forum actually taught us actually this samyana technique. Yeah, I'll put it there now. Yeah,
it's fascinating. That's really interesting. I think lowering the importance, I think one of the things I learned was that where your focus goes, your energy goes. And it's what I was saying before about letting go. If we've got a deadline to get, a goal to get, and we end up sort of, our world starts to sort of push in on us, and we end up getting in the box. So we've put too much importance on it because we're worried about the outcome. So asking a better question, asking a different question, well, straight away, see, asking a different question is creativity. So it's all sort of tied into one here, almost. Lowering the importance takes away the outcome. It's not, we still have deadlines to meet, but how else can I bring it in? It's much better to have a team that's achieving 90% of their deadlines all year than it's achieving above the deadlines once or twice a year. So bringing the whole team up. So lowering the importance is fascinating. Again, it's not easy to do because energetically I'm focusing on it. I want to get this, and of course, we know that the universe will throw a curveball. If this is my focus, this is what I want to do, I want to get to the Olympics to get a gold medal in this sport, then too much importance, something will happen to stop it, usually something outside. So lowering the importance, it's all tied in together. Critical thinking, creative thinking, creating something, actually letting go the energy, not focusing, and you tend to focus down and your relationships suffer and everything sort of because you're just putting too much importance on it. And then something comes along or somebody comes along and they throw you off course and you can't achieve that goal. Interesting. So has anybody got any questions? There's a few comments in there. Nobody got any questions today? What is Xian saying? Is Xian saying that? Not really a question, but I think it's not only the past which is stagnant, future is also stagnant. The moment you let go of the future too, along with the past, yes, absolutely. You tap into limitless abundance and possibilities. The only state which is stagnant is, the only state which is not stagnant is now. It's the playground. Absolutely. We have 60, 70,000 thoughts a day, so many thoughts a day, and most of them are on what we did yesterday or what we're going to do tomorrow. And we miss the most important one, the one that we have control over, the now. And the trouble is, in the thinking, the thoughts that we had about yesterday, what happened in the past or the future, we just go round and round in our heads, and our focus isn't on, it's just on hypotheticals. We can't change the past. That's what's happened. In the future, well, it's just, it's non-linear, as Sabina said, it's non-linear. Anything could happen. But we tend to spend most of our time in the past and the future. The playground in the moment is the only one that we really have control over. No, not control, influence over. Absolutely. Sabina.
Yep, agree. So just that, anyone have any questions to know? So I'm just looking actually on Facebook that if there is any questions. Yeah. No, I think so that in terms of question on Facebook.
I think that's a fascinating subject, flow, that you touched on there, Sabina, because flow is actually part of the as me, through me mindset, that consciousness flow. And flow is very much about having let go. You can't get into flow unless you've let go, and if you've lowered the importance. And really, to be thinking creatively, it's so much more empowering.
Do you have a question, Monica?
No questions from Monica.
No. Yeah. So if you don't have, I think Sir Ravi is asking that if you can take actually a group photo and we can end up the session. Yeah. Yeah.
Put all your cameras on, so we can take a group photo for Ravi. Ravi, we don't get to see you very much. Who else is there? Rishi and Sapana. There we go.
All right, just hang on, everybody.
Great. Got that? Yep.
That's good. So,
Cool.
John, 2 weeks from
Excellent.
now, we are going to talk another topic, and we're going to talk about money. Topic related to money, abundance, wealth.
Abundance.
Yes, abundance, wealth, and prosperity. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
Well,
thank
thank you
you
for
all.
coming along.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, John, sorry.
I just said thank you to everybody, just like you were doing. I hope you got
Yes.
something, lots of sort of stuff out of this. It's a fascinating subject.
And it's a very I think so this subject that we can go on and on. We can peel actually the onion. There are subtopic actually to this subject, right? Yeah. We can go actually deeper in the future actually on this topic. But in the meantime, we would like to say thank you to all attending this podcast. And we look forward to host another podcast 2 weeks from now. It is on wealth and abundance. Okay.
Same
With that,
time,
thank
same
you.
place.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.